Hello, 3D modeling class. No, this is the 3D animation class. Week number 3. Today, we're going to look a little bit more at our character animation. We will also just look at a kind of a few other things related to character rigs. We'll do some camera animation stuff. So it's a little bit of a hodgepodge, but kind of the main topic is continuing with your character animations. Before we begin, there's a new version of Blender out just within the last couple of days, 3.3. So if you go to blender.org, you can go to download and you can download Blender 3.3. Jobs. Let's see. What is Blender hiring for? A senior Blender developer, communication specialist. Even you could work for Blender. So here we are back in Blender. You can see it's got a new splash screen. Actually, you know what? I'm just curious because I want to download this scene and just look at it real fast because this is actually my first time opening 3.3. So here on blender.org, if you go to download, they have demo files. And they always supply the files for the splash screen. And it looks like that's going to take a couple minutes. So I'll just pause. And while we wait, there's some cool things in here. And just you might recognize if you go all the way down to the bottom. This is where I got this character from here. But yeah, they've got some other just kind of cool things. Some of these are a little old. You may recognize, those of you that are computer hardware nerds, you may recognize a couple of these, the car demo and the classroom scene. A lot of people that do like computer hardware benchmarks and kind of test computer hardware things will use these and as like comparisons to see how long it takes to render the classroom, how long it takes to render the BMW. So you can download those and fiddle with those. In fact, in the modeling class, we may do an assignment related to this classroom here. But anyway, let's see. Oh, my download's done. Let's open this. Just want to see what it looks like. Let's see if my computer can handle it. Cycles, GPU compute. Yes, okay. Oh, I burped a little bit. I'm drinking a coffee. Afternoon coffee. Render preview. Wow, this looks very detailed, very cool. Let's see if my computer can handle it. Yeah. Actually, let me go back to this. What do you call this? Object mode? Solid mode? So yeah, look at this is actually really interesting because like it looks like it has like from a distance it does have so much detail, but when you get close to it here, you can see that they're just buildings. They're just like simple shapes, but they've added lots of detail, and the lighting and the shading looks great. Let me do material preview here to see what kind of materials we're working with up close. Maybe this will take a while to load. Anyway. Cool. Oh, not responding. It's freezing on me. I zoomed in too close. Too much detail. So, anyway. Yeah, so you can see, like, when I zoomed way into these buildings, it was like, oh, those are kind of dumpy little models. But it doesn't matter, because look at all of this detail from high up. The 10,000-foot view. What's the saying? It's like if you start looking at airplanes under microscopes, nothing makes sense. I think I got that from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Okay. Here we are in Blender. I'm going to go open up my sample character here that I was working on last week. And I had a little bit of a revelation. And it has to do with my flipping here. And I like right after I finished my recording the lecture from last week, I decided that it was a mistake to rotate the object. That I should just rotate the the character's pose within the not rotate the object, but rotate the character. And so I'll kind of walk through that a little bit. But before we even get back to playing with this, I just want to remind you of a couple things. The first of which is saving your project file. So it is recommended, I recommend, that you use autosave and that you save multiple backups, I guess. So in your Blender preferences, so up here in the edit menu, you've got preferences, and down near the bottom we have save and load. Hopefully you have these settings already kind of set from previous semesters, but you should enable autosave with this checkbox. You have a couple things you want to adjust: save versions and timer minutes. So this is how often it's going to autosave, and this is how many previous autosaves it will save. So, you can make this, it's sort of like, how much work are you willing to lose, and how far are you going to want to go back if things go wrong? So for example, like, let's say you are animating a character, which you should be doing for assignment 1. And like, you really you're adding a lot of keyframes, you're doing this and that, and like things just are moving herky-jerky. And like, you don't have enough undos, because I think it only saves like 30 if you do Control-Z or Command-Z. There's only a certain number of undos that'll save, and then you're stuck with these kind of goofy keyframes. And you want to continue to go back in time. So you can go back to an old save. So do some math. 5 minutes times 5 saves is 25 minutes. And save versions, you can do 100, now 32. You can do 32. So 32 times 5 is like several hours worth of work. Now the consideration is, let me open up my folder here. This is the animation class. Here we go. So right now, this is my folder that has, and maybe you can't see it. It's kind of small, but this is my folder that has the sample character. And you can see that each of these save files is about 2 or 3 megabytes. So if you have 30 save files, that's just something you need to think about. Like, hopefully you know how much space is on your computer. I've got 3 terabytes, so I'm not too concerned about like 100 megabytes. But maybe you are. Or like maybe, so my, the bike model that I was telling you about, that I used at work, that's 200, the one save file is 200 megabytes because there's like so much detail in it. So saving 30 times 200 is not a good use of space. And maybe I'm willing to lose more time. So maybe I set this timer to 15 minutes and I set this to, 6. So that's, I have an hour and a half of work backed up, basically. And at most, I'd be losing 15 minutes of work. So that's something to think about. The other thing too is, like, if you want to access a backup save, you can go to your file menu, open. Save this, sure. And by default, it only shows you the .blend files, files. But obviously, like, if you look back in my Finder window here, there's these .blend1, .blend2, .blend3, .blend4. So these are the autosaves. You can just delete the 1 and delete the 2, but you can also here in Blender just enable, if you hit the settings here, no, which one is it? Yeah, here. So this funnel, you can hit this drop down, and you can also enable backup blend files. And so then you can now you can see that there's a bunch more in here, all of these old backups. Okay. So I encourage you to have some form of backup automatic saving happening in case you need to just go back. The other thing too is like if you sometimes and I do this with not just with Blender, but like other like if I'm working on an After Effects project, I'll just like save a different version of the file too. Like if I'm at a branching point, it's like, okay, I'm gonna like save a copy of this right now just to have it in case I need to go all the way back. Or like maybe a simpler term or a simpler method in After Effects would be like, I'm just gonna copy my composition over it like this. But the reason that I with After Effects that I save a totally different file is because a lot of times, and this isn't an After Effects class, so I'm sorry. But like if I'm changing a composition or changing something within a composition, but it's used in multiple places, then it's going to affect everything, even if I'm like saving a backup of the composition. So I'll just save another copy of the file. So you can even do the same thing here in Blender. Just like go do a file save as, or save copy, I guess is another one. But just like give it a total different file name and say like, this is my progress on September 8th. And say like September 8th, but then keep working on the original or something like that. All right, the other thing, one of the other things that I wanted to show you before we just kind of keep working on our character animation is, and this is sort of a reminder from last semester, from your basics class maybe, but I want to talk about weight paint, and kind of how that impacts your animation. So if you remember back to when we generated the rig and when we generated the armature last week for this guy, we did brought up the parent menu and we said armature deform with automatic weights, and thankfully you just took my word for it. You trusted what I was telling you to do. But let's talk about what the weight actually is, what weight means. So I'm in object mode right now. I've got my character selected. Not the rig. I have the character selected, which is actually right. Don't I have the character selected? Oh, object mode. There we go. Object mode. I have the actual mesh selected, and then we can go drop top left. We can click on object mode and select weight paint, and now we're seeing some colors here. And what this represents is which bones affect which parts of the mesh. So maybe remember back to, oh shoot. Anyway, sorry. Remember back to your basics class when we did the spooky tree, and we talked about adding the particles. And when you do weight paint like this, the value of the color determines the strength of the color determines the strength value on the vertexes underneath it, or the vertices underneath. So red signals 100% strength, or like a value of 1. Green is like half strength, or a value of 0.5. And black here, they must have updated because it used to just be blue, but black, it represents a value of 0. So it also works like a percentages. Black is 0%, green is 50%, and red is 100%. So and there's multiple uses for weight paint. So like I mentioned particles. So like if you're using a particle system, your particles will be most like 100% dense according to how you've set it up. We'll have 100% density at red, 50%, so it'll be half as many particles where it's green and no particles where it's black. Now, with animation, with rigs and armatures, the strength value is the strength at which the strength at which the bones or the rig that it's attached to influences it. So if go down to your object data properties here, this green one, and we have a list of vertex group, or your list of vertex groups. So when we did armature, I should probably just do this a little bit so you can see. When we did armature deform with automatic weights, it automatically gave weight paint basically to all of the vertexes on your mesh. And so you can scroll through this list and you can see all of the bones and then all of the groups of vertexes assigned to each bone. So let's just do hand right. So DEF hand R is this one here. So this is his right hand. And we can see that these sets of vertexes on the mesh are assigned to the hand paddle. So when I move the hand paddle, everything that's in red will move like exactly with it, 100% of the way. You can see that there's a pretty steep fall off. So like here at the wrist where it's green, if I move the hand paddle, this far, the wrist will only go not quite as far. And then here where it's black, when I move the hand paddle, it's not going to move that black area at all. Yeah, look at a different one. Look at toe, right toe. So when I move the little toe thing here, there's a bone in the toe, and when the bone moves, the toes are going to move exactly with it. The green's going to move less with it, and then all the way back to the black. None of this part of the foot will move when the toe moves. So, and you can manipulate this, and adjust this as needed. So, like, I think last year, the first time I did this class, I found just a free rig on the a free model on the internet, and it was like a robot, and the robot had like an antenna on the back. And I rigged it up, and for whatever reason, like when you moved the shoulder, his like antenna would also move with the shoulder. And it's like, no, I don't want the antenna to move at all. So I had to adjust because the automatic weights did it. And also because the mesh was kind of messy. So that's why I'm using this like kind of simple mesh for you guys. But let's take the hand, for example. Hand, where's my right hand? Right hand, okay. So we have weight paint selected here. And so we can see that, so actually just as a proof of concept, let me go back to object mode. Let's click on here on the rig pose mode. Okay. So again, this is right hand. When I move it, the whole hand moves with it, as you can see. I'm going to undo that. Tab, whoops. Go back into object mode, select the mesh, and then I'm going to go into weight paint and have the right hand selected. So right now we're drawing. So I actually have like a little paintbrush here. You can draw a value of 1. And so if I paint on the black area here with my weight at 1%, it's going to draw red. And so you can also see that by doing that, it moved the mesh. Because I've moved that hand paddle thing, I've moved the armature, so I'm saying, yep, you need to move with it, like this. Undo. You can also you can paint a value of like 0.5, so it's going to paint it green and it's going to move less with it. You can also paint a value of 0. So like if I paint his thumb with a 0 like this, his thumb is gonna like not go back and not move with it like this. So now if I go back to object mode and then hit the armature and then go to pose mode and I move this hand paddle, so that part of his thumb that I painted black is not moving with it. So you can see it looks a little goofy. Undo. Okay. Weight paint. Yes. Okay. So now we're back. So that's weight paint. And it is sometimes helpful, like if some part of the mesh isn't working as expected when you move it, this is a good place to check to see if something's off, or like if too much of your if like too much of the arm is moving with something. Now, and actually, okay, I just thought of something else. So the other like part of this is there has to be vertexes underneath it. So for example, let's go back to object mode. I'm going to Shift A, I'm going to add a plane. Now, how many vertexes does a plane have? I'll pause for you to answer out loud. It has 4. I didn't pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm in object mode with my plane selected. I can go to weight paint here, paint a value of 1. So it should be red. If I am clicking here, it's not turning red. No one. I want it to be red just in the middle here. You're painting on vertexes. So there are no vertexes in the middle here. So you can see when I painted, it created a group like this. So if I paint on the corner here where there is a vertex, ding, that corner turned red, and then it like fades out to the other half. So if I click on this corner right here and paint this one red, it'll be like a gradient, like. And if I do here, so now it's all red. There we go. So let me undo all of that. Now let's select all. Oops, I don't have my key and stroke on as usual. Key and stroke. Whoa. Okay, there it goes. Let's go. Okay, we can right click, subdivide, right click, subdivide. You can do that a few times. Right click, subdivide. Okay, so now we have a bunch of vertexes on here. Go back into we'll go to weight paint mode, and now F, if you hold down the F key, it changes the size of your, actually you don't even have to hold it down, you can just tap it, and then left click. You can change the size of your brush. Now if I paint on here, you can see that, and it's still like kind of a grid because that's how my vertexes were laid out. But yes, now you can see that you can have a little bit more control of your paint because there's enough vertexes underneath. So you can paint with 0.5. F, make it bigger, click. Paint at 0.5. Yes. And like just in the future, if you can hit the plus button and create another vertex group here. And select the different vertex groups. Just like when you do automatic weights, it creates a group of vertexes for each bone. Paint to 0 on here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's delete this plane. Delete. So that's weight paint, and that's how it works with rigs and animation. And one final thought on this. Rigging and character weight or weight paint and all that stuff. Like in big Hollywood productions, like in Pixar and whatever, there's like an army of people dedicated to these kinds of things. Well, not an army, but like dozens. That there's people whose sole job is to rig characters. There's people that just model, and there's people that just animate, and there's people that just do the textures. So it's, you know, it's important to understand all of these things, but it's okay if they're not very interesting to you. Because you don't have to be able to do it all, but you gotta understand how it works. The last little thing that I'll show you before I just keep working on this character flip a little bit is having multiple cameras. So obviously in the world of 3D animation, specifically like features and storytelling and characters and stuff like that, there's always going to be, you're not going to have one camera that just follows somebody along the whole time. So what you can do here in Blender, if you want to have multiple cameras that like switch between, switch during your animation, do the following. So let's, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to select this camera and just delete all my keyframes. So I'm going to hit all these. You can just hit A to select all, and then delete key and delete all my keyframes. So my camera is still. So let's hit 0 to zoom in, and I actually want, so I'm going to change some of my camera properties a little bit. Change my focal length, have it be a little wider. And I'm actually going to like zoom out a little bit, back up a little bit here. And then I'm going to do Control-Alt-0 to set my camera like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add another camera into the scene here. Shift-A, add a new camera. And this one I want to be like right underneath. It's going to be a low angle here, and it's going to be looking up at the flip. Control-Alt-0. So we see it coming over like this. Whoosh. Oh, yeah. And then let's do a third. Whoops. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Hold on. Undo, 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 undo. Okay, that one's good there. My second camera here. Let me try that again. So Shift A, add another camera. It moved this one rather than this one. So let's GUI move this. Oops. GUI move this back here. So I missed one thing. So you can see the difference here. So I've got two cameras. This one and this one. This one, the triangle on top is filled in. That means it's the active camera. This one's not. So how you switch is you just click on the little camera icon here. So you can see that camera, this one up here in the top right in my scene collection, has the little gray selection on it. This one doesn't. So if I click here, you can see now that this one gets filled in. And so now if you do Control-Alt-0, once I get it into place here, Control-Alt-0, you can see that that one moved where I wanted it to. And let's also just kind of make the angle just a little bit on the side here like this. Control-Alt-0. Great. And then we'll do one more camera. Shift-A, add a camera. And so I'll click here. So this one's my active camera, and we want this one to just get the landing. Maybe we get like this over here, Control-Alt-0. And maybe I'll zoom this one out a little bit. Camera 1. Is this one wide enough? Do we want this one to be a little wider too? Okay, so now how do we... So if I go camera view like this, it's just going to stay on whichever one is my active. So what we can do on our timeline down here is add markers. So first, let's just set our first camera as the active one right now. So 0. Oops, 0 with my mouse in the window there. Okay. And this is a little bit too wide. Let's change my focal length here, zoom in just a little bit. Okay, great. Now we got to decide where we want to cut. So here is going to flip, and let's say frame 35. So I'm in my timeline panel down here. We can do a marker and add marker, or shortcut is the M key, M. So you can say frame 35. And now what we can do is select our next camera. So your playhead has to be on the marker, F35, frame 35. We'll select the next camera, which is camera 001. Hit the marker menu and say bind camera to markers. So it says bind the selected camera to a marker on the current frame. So you can see here that now there's a little camera icon that says camera 1. Actually, you know what? I wonder if we need... So we probably need to actually have one at the very beginning too. So let's just add a marker here. Select this camera, and what is the keyboard shortcut? Control B, bind cameras to marker. Okay, there we go. So then it'll flip. So at the beginning, so on frame 1, we got to say like, yep, start with this camera. Then on frame 35, switch to this camera. And then right when he hits the ground, we'll say frame 54. We can go M, to add a marker, hit this camera, and then Control B, bind. So the other important thing is, I believe, yeah, if you do Control B when your mouse is in the viewport here, it's going to do something different. It's going to make a render area. So right click to undo that. Your mouse has to be down here on the timeline, and it has to be on top of the marker here on frame 54. Control, so we've got camera 002 selected, Control B, there we go. So now we're looking through our cameras. If I hit the space bar to play, nice. Okay. So that's the quick way to add some different camera shots into your scene, if you don't want to have one camera that follows all the way around. Now, I did follow the 180-degree rule here, which means that you don't have the angles of your camera pointing in directions more than 180 degrees. So if I draw lines like this, you can see that they're all within about 90 degrees of each other. So that's not bad. Cool. And actually, you can see now, if we're not looking through the camera, oops, that this little black triangle fills in. So it starts there and then ding, ding. Cool. Cool. All right, I'm actually just gonna hide the cameras for now. Okay. Oops, I don't want that. I want 3 for my side view. Orthographic. Okay, let's work on cleaning this character flip a little bit. Oh, okay. Before we even work on this, you have your assignment 1, and it is to animate this character. Hopefully you've piddled around with it a little bit, started some. Character animation takes time, and it takes practice. I, admittedly, have not spent a lot of time in my career animating characters. So this is like kind of a challenging thing for me, to get it to look realistic. So this is one of those things where it's like, time in is important. How much time you're doing it, how much time you're practicing, starting over, working with different characters, working with different kinds of animation. So you've got a lot of time to work on this, and don't be afraid to start over, and don't be afraid to like have it look a little goofy. And maybe like the foot is like sliding a little bit as you move. I think that's one of the biggest things that people like don't understand is like, well, how do I get the feet to look right? Because he's sliding, like he's like doing the moonwalk. And actually, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit today. But it's just like, you just got to practice, and you just got to like add more keyframes and go slowly, work intentionally. And you will, if you want to be a character animator, you will develop a process that works for you. I don't have a great process because I kind of just wing it every semester when this comes up, because I don't spend a lot of time animating characters. It's just not what I enjoy doing, or spend a lot of time doing. But I know how. I know enough to show you a terrible character animation. So like what I'm about to do here is delete a bunch of keyframes and kind of start over a little bit, because that's definitely 100% part of the process sometimes. Okay. All right. Let's do this. So, first I want to look at object transform here, because this is the one that I want to change the, I want to remove the flip on this. So I want to change my rotation. So I believe it's just as easy as deleting these two things here like this. Nope, not that one. Undo this. Which one is it? Okay, I think it's this. I think it's just our X rotation here. So let me, if I delete this one and delete this one, it still seems, oh, and actually I need to to keep deleting down the line too. I need to delete this one as well. There we go. And that by doing this, it's just going to make it a little easier to track kind of the up and down movement, because when we're rotating, or when you rotate an object, it rotates around its origin point. So remember, the origin point here is this little yellow dot. Maybe you can see it. Which is at the base here. So like if things are up in the air, it's going to be like whipping around in a circle. So we want to keep the model like pretty even, and that way all we need to do is like a little twist. So you can also see now that by removing, and actually I can just delete all of these keyframes here for the X rotation, and the Y and the Z for that matter, because none of the object isn't going to be, and really the scale. I should just delete all of these because the scale doesn't change either. Just the object location, and really the Y location or the X location isn't changing either. Just the Y and the Z. And okay, so now that we've removed that, you can see that the Z is moving, it's animating way too high here. So what I should do is I should go here where this Z keyframe is. I'm going to turn on auto keying, and I'm just going to GZ move it down like this, just so that it's enough right there. And I kind of forgot by turning on auto keying that it's just going to do all of these extra ones anyway, but that's fine. And scale, we don't need scale. Okay, so so the order in which you do these is, a personal preference. What I kind of want to do now is I want to adjust the easing of this, because you can kind of see that he kind of gently falls to the ground here. It kind of eases down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my graph editor here, bottom left, and I want to just look at my Y location and Z location here. So Z is really the one I want to zoom in on. Okay. So how I'm envisioning this in my head is I kind of want him to hang in the air a little bit longer, and then he comes down quickly. And really, he should, if you kind of are trying to picture it a little bit in your head, and again, look at reference material, like Google somebody doing a flip, just say like person doing flip, and I bet you can find, or even like search like reference flip, person flip reference, and I bet you can find an example that can help you with this. But if I'm just picturing it in my head, they're leaving the ground promptly, they're not easing off the ground like taking off like an airplane. They leave quickly and they land quickly. So if we imagine what the graph would look like for that value, we don't want these curves on the bottom. So I'm just going to select this keyframe here on the Z, this one here, and I'm going to go V to change my keyframe type and do vector so that it's just coming straight off the ground. And I'll do the same thing here with this one too. I'm going to select this keyframe, V for vector. And then I'm also going to take this one and I'm going to kind of, so you can hold down, you can pull out the handle here, and you can hold down shift to have it be like a smaller, like geared down adjustment of it. Control Z to undo. You can also hold down the control button to kind of snap it, ding, 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 on the grid here. So you can hold down control to have it move out evenly. I may also change this one and do V, and I want these to be aligned. Is it maintaining that? I think, right, so that both of them move, but I guess it doesn't change the scale evenly. So I'm holding down the control key just to make it a little bit. So anyway, now if we look at this and I kind of scrub through it, he kind of hovers over it and then doom, lands down suddenly. So I think that's good. So next, I'm not gonna worry about the steps at the front first. Maybe we'll come back to that. But I kind of want to nail the flipping part of it here. So the first step is, or the next part here is, I want him to kind of push off with his right foot here. So I want to like have that his left leg extend and push off the ground. So now I'm just gonna, because I feel like we've got the movement of the character working, or like looking kind of how we want it to, especially with the Z direction. So he kind of leaves suddenly and then lands suddenly. I think that's good. So right here, we're going to go into pose mode. I'm going to go to pose mode here like this. And maybe I'll go back. I'm going to go back to my timeline. Maybe I'll turn on Auto King just for quickness sake. So here, if we move a frame at a time, so you with your mouse in the timeline here, you can use the arrow keys to move frames. So here, with our left foot, and it's got IK for inverse kinematics. So I think we talked about that last week. Looks like there's already a keyframe there, so I'm gonna go next frame, and I'm gonna G move it down like this, so that his toes on the ground here. Heel, do we have a keyframe on the heel? We do. So I'm gonna G grab this and kind of move it up like this. So we're adding keyframes. And so the final frame here, and it maybe is like a little bit too abrupt, but that's fine. I'm really gonna have him like push off like this. So you can see that leg is really pushing off. And then if I can imagine what the next leg is doing, he's probably gonna like hike it up. So if I'm going one frame at a time here. So I bet he's gonna, no, I don't need to do every keyframe here, but let's see, if I'm on 32, I'm gonna imagine him like really bringing his knee up here like this. And then like, we'll say his heel kind of comes down. Hi. And it is happening kind of fast. We may space these keyframes out a little bit. But now right here, I think we're going to want to start like rotating rotating our character a little bit. And now you're at kind of a decision point. So you could, and this is kind of the way we did it before last week, but you could grab this like global control here, the arrows on the bottom, and you could rotate like this. You could do it one at a time. But again, it's kind of creating the same problem where like you'll probably have to go one frame, like at least every 2 or 3 frames at a time, just to make sure that like the arc of it is working properly. Or you can take the little bit tougher route. Well, and depending on your perspective of it, neither one is that easy. But you could, let me undo that, just like grab the major chunks and just rotate them individually. So it's sort of like pick your poison. How do you want to do this? For this particular lecture, I'm gonna attempt to not use the global control and just like animate the individual pieces rolling over. And you got to be like, well, Nolan, there's got to be an easier way. Not really. Animating characters is sometimes a painstaking process that takes time. You may have to do things one frame at a time, but like you get better at it. So I'm just going to go for it. So what do we have here? So the character, oh yeah, so I did kind of have this happening a little bit here. The torso. So I'm just gonna start to rotate the torso like this. I already have the head going down, knees coming up. I'm gonna delete this. No, I don't have the torso going any further. So I'm trying to keep track of like what parts of the body are doing what. So like I've already got the head kind of going down. So now I actually need to move. I'm gonna get in a little closer here. Give myself a little bit more space. Now the feet need to come back a little bit, because now we're starting to actually flip. And you can see that his elbows are being drawn back. So we gotta, and maybe I need to do like a little bit of maybe I need to do like a little bit of adjustment on these. If I turn on the mirror thing, yeah, I think we want the hands. So maybe, hopefully you saw what I did, but up here, this little butterfly, you can turn on apply changes to the opposite side. So because I kind of want the hands to be doing the same thing here, I'm going to turn this on. So I only need to actually move one of them. So I'm just trying to get this right. I want these to be in. Why am I having such a hard time? Like, give me a top-down view. Rotate this. Yeah, there we go. All right, so what's happening here? So always just kind of scrub through it a little bit. See if it's giving you the right vibe. So honestly, we're kind of at the height here. I think we need to be a lot further along on our flip. So I really just want to, like, by the end here, maybe even by this point, I'm going to try to do like the halfway point and then the finish here, and then I should adjust in between. So like we're really rotating here like this. So we should be like upside down. So I'm really just going to kind of yank him a little bit. Oh, and I got to turn off the symmetry. So I'm just going to kind of move these, rotate these, just to kind of get them sort of where I want them to be. I want to make sure turning on X-ray back on. Yeah, sorry, hands. Get the hands sort of where they need to be, rotate them like this. So it's looking goofy. But let's also just like try to stick our landing here. And then we can try to fix in between. So let's bring the torso all the way back around, like, and I should be in orthographic view because I want it to be accurate. I'm just going to, again, move one little bit at a time, turning off X-ray, turning off X-ray, or not X-ray, sorry, symmetry, and just making sure that nothing's getting twisted, being careful. So I'm just grabbing the feet, and I'm rotating them like this. Actually, I can probably just put this one back down here because we're almost there. And keep in mind your origin point, this little orange dot here. This is the center of your person. And then we can rotate here like this. Let's see, what are these hands doing? Hey. Aha. Yeah, so you can see that the legs are going the wrong direction here, but that's okay because we can fix that. Because I think how it works in with poses is that so like sometimes if you're animating rotation, there is like there's like an infinite value of rotation. So like there's 360 degrees and then there's like 361, 362. So it like knows like number of revolutions. But I think how it works in poses is that it's just the like relative, it's only 0 to 360. So like if you have something go from like 0 degrees and you want it to go to like 300 degrees, so you want it to make almost a full loop, it just goes backwards 60 degrees because it's just like a relative thing. It doesn't calculate like direction necessarily. So you'll just have to add keyframes in between to say like, yep, you're traveling this way, and so like go this way first and then around to here. So it takes like the shortest distance. Okay, so let's just get this started to situate hands. So we'll probably need to add another kind of intermediary here. So like right here. What are the feet doing here? We want the feet to be going up like this. Here's this foot. How does this look? Something moves really fast. It's this foot, right? Is that what this foot is doing? You can see how, oh, like right here, the knee like goes into the chest for some reason. Do I have a keyframe here? We'll just adjust this. We're just gonna add a few keyframes. So I think he needs to be like a little bit more tucked here. The other thing we need to adjust is the hands. So let me turn on symmetry for the hands. So the hands are kind of doing the same thing. Turn off symmetry. Just getting in the habit of that. And then when we land too, we obviously need the hands to be in front and rotated back this way. Oops, undo, undo. I'll turn on symmetry, please. G, R, like this. We need to move them a little closer. There we go. So I'm trying the other thing I'm trying to do is to try to kind of keep my keyframes together so that there's kind of points that I'm marking along the way. So like, and so along the top here, your top row of keyframes in the timeline this is where there's any kind of keyframe. Well, except right here. Why doesn't it show them right here? Interesting. But anyway, so I'm just trying to keep them sort of close so that it's kind of easy to track where I'm adding keyframes for things. So it's not too terribly messy, but it'll eventually get messier. Okay, I'm actually like sort of pleased with how this is looking. Excuse me. I do think, so like here, I think the feet are a little bit too hot. Like he's a little bit too extended. I used to be a swimmer when I was, turn off symmetry here. I was a swimmer when I was in high school and in college, and they always pair swimming with diving. And so in the middle of every swim meet, they'd have diving. They'd have a diving break, and all the divers would do their dives. So you got to just kind of like sit and watch all the divers. So I've watched quite a few flips in my time. Okay, I'm feeling all right about this. So there's kind of like two actions here. I'm not exactly sure what the hands would typically do during a dive. So let's see what our hands are doing here. Honestly, I think like this is a pretty normal thing for, I'm going to do like a top view here. Just kind of moving your hands along, and then you kind of put your hands out to stabilize a little bit at the end. Cool. Hi. Now, if I hit the space bar and play this, I think it's like a little bit quick at the end. That our flip happens pretty fast here at the end. I should hit space bar to stop. That like this feels good, or that maybe the beginning can be sped up a little bit and the end can be extended a little bit. Because he sort of like goes up and then he flips. So I feel like this part is a little bit slow. So like what we can do here, if I do A, or here if I do A, we've got all of our stuff with keyframes. And we can adjust these a little bit. So maybe I'll just like scoot these in one frame. Maybe I'll grab these ones and scoot them in one frame. The other thing is like we don't have a lot of frames to work with. And then maybe I'll bring this one in 1 or 2 frames like this. So this still feels like kind of fast right here, this part. So maybe what I'll do is I'll even extend all these frames back a little bit. Yeah. So and now like the whole thing feels kind of slow, but it feels like it's a more accurate pace. The other thing too is like I feel like now we need to be a little bit higher at this point. That like here, like it feels like we're kind of traveling vertically here. So maybe what I'll do is I'll do object Z location this one. Let me go back to object mode. And I'm gonna GZ, just move this up. So remember this whole time, yeah, and I forget about the auto keying does that. That's fine. The whole time I've had auto keying on. That's how I've been creating these keyframes. We want it to be a little higher. So it's just like a little bit more of an arch. Yeah, okay. Okay. Not bad. Feeling pleased with myself, back into pose mode. All right, let's just get the landing here, and then we're just about at an hour. Okay. Next week we'll probably be the last one where we talk about character animations, because then the last thing I'll clean up next week is just like getting the feet sliding and stuff. But honestly, you kind of already know the trick that like get the feel for like the speed of the whole object, like animate the object moving first, I'd say. And then you can add the footsteps. And so like then it's pretty easy to just like follow along with the grid. Follow along with the grid. So it's like, okay, my toe is like right here. You can even make a marker, be like, yep, the toe is right here. And so then you can animate the frames and just like make sure the toe is in the same spot as the character slides along. We'll do that next week. Okay, let's just stick the landing real quick. Pose mode, W for my selection tool. So we flipped. We're gonna land here. And again, like once I kind of get this in, if I wanted to keep going, where's my selection tool? W. Like I can see here that like his ankles are getting broken a little bit right here. But again, like these can all be remedied. Okay, so he hits the ground right here. So let's make sure that heel is there. And so like, oh, here's a great example. So like right here, his heel is going to hit the ground. We can just like move forward in time and just like kind of make sure that that heel continues to be in the right spot. The other thing too that I need to be conscious of is my origin point here. So like eventually I'll want this foot to be behind the origin point. So actually, why don't I undo these keyframes? So like maybe when we get to this point, I want his foot to be back here. And I want this foot to be down here. So yeah, maybe I need to just work on like having a little bit bigger. And he's like standing up a little bit more. A little bit bigger distances between my keyframes, so that I can kind of zero in on exactly what parts I need to tweak. So he lands. And then, yeah. The other thing I maybe won't have him travel so far forward. So like here, why don't I do back into object mode? Or actually, I think I could do object transforms here, and I can do X location, right? Let's just go to object mode, GX, and move them. No, it's Y. GY. G, Y. Whoops. What am I doing here? GY. There we go. Okay. Move it back a little bit. Maybe even less. GY. Yeah, you can play with this. I want to wrap this up here. We're at an hour. And then this foot comes forward, and comes back like this. The head comes up a little bit. And actually, maybe I animated the shoulders here like this. So then G, R, the shoulders come up a little bit. Head comes up. Rotate. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Rotate this a little bit so you're standing up straight. So you can see I am pretty close to being right at my origin point there. Maybe he's standing up a little bit more. And then maybe just for fun at the end, we have his hands go up like, we'll key the hands right here. Symmetry like that. And actually I meant to have that be right on top of that one there. So cover that keyframe up. And then at the end, he's going to kind of raise his hands. Like, ta-da, like the, how they do in gymnastics in the Olympics. Okay. Yeah, not bad. Okay. Final thing. We got to do our camera view. Okay, so my camera is, my last camera here is way out of position. So I got to just do like Control Shift. Whoops. Got to move my camera. We need to have like a kind of a triumphant pose like this. So Control Alt 0. There we go. Okay, let's make a little more room for this. Let's go to object mode. Let's not have anything selected, and let's play. Yeah. Hey, not bad. Not bad. I'm pleased with myself. So, okay. So this was like, 30 minutes of me just tweaking a little bit. I've deleted a bunch of keyframes and started over a little bit. So in your assignment 1, don't be afraid to do this, and you're going to have to put a little bit of time in. To get 3 interactions, since it's parkour. And it doesn't have to be complicated, like a flip, or maybe climbs up a wall, or you like slide over the hood of a car. So, it doesn't have to be complicated, but I do want 3 different like actions. You don't have to include the different camera shots too. That was just kind of a fun bonus thing. Anyway, that's it for today. We didn't have a Zoom this week, but we'll still stick to the schedule. So look at the course schedule if you have any doubts or concerns. So we'll Zoom again in 2 weeks, which would be September 22nd. And we will look over your progress on assignment 1. I want it to be like close to completion by then. I don't want you to like wait till the very last second. So after you will be sharing your progress with the class. This is part of how it works. You got to be able to share your work. You can't be embarrassed to share it. This is a safe space. It's a small class. And feedback is critical for personal growth, 100%. No person is an island. So you will be sharing your progress with the class on the 22nd. And after that, you'll have 1 more week to turn it in and finalize it, which is the 29th of September. So still plenty of time to do this, but don't wait. Get started. Again, you can use this character already rigged for you. You just have to do your own 3 animations. That is all. So long. Good luck. Please email if you have questions. Email. And if you want, send me your project file too. I'd be happy to look at it. That's all. Goodbye.